Hi, we're going to talk about muscle testing, what it is, how to use it, and when to use it. So what is muscle testing? Muscle testing is your body's ability to tell you what's going on a subconscious level that you might not be consciously aware of. This is something that has been used for a long time, and not everyone knows about it, but it is very much used with chiropractic offices or different health professionals. And so essentially, what muscle testing is it's your body's ability to tell you what's going on by giving you feedback, whether that is through actual like testing your strength, whether you can be strong with something or weak with something, or testing how your body moves when you ask a different question. So to kind of bring you back to the essential basics of how muscle testing works and how it kind of like an analogy to help you understand it. So essentially think about if I had a plant and on this side of the room was a bright window with bunch of sun coming through, and on this side of the room there was darkness and no sun. You would expect that this plant, and you would know that this plant is naturally going to grow towards the sun. And the reason why is because the sun's bringing it nourishment, it's bringing it vitamins and minerals that it needs to be able to grow and flourish. So it's going to grow away from the darkness and close to the sun. Same thing if you had like peaceful classical music here and a bunch of hard rock music, that plant is going to grow away from the hard rock music and grow closer to the classical music. And that's kind of the same thing with us. When we go about life, we do everything in front of us, right? So everything we want, we reach out for. Everything we don't want, we push away from. For example, if I was to put something gross in front of your face, you wouldn't be like, ooh, yummy. You'd probably be like, oh, gross, get it away, right? You're going to move away from it. So muscle testing and your body's ability to tell you what's going on is essentially the same thing. So your body can get strong with truth, or it can get weak with lies. Or if we're doing the sway test, there's a sway test and there's a muscle testing where you're using more resistance. And so the muscle testing with the resistance is you're going to be strong with truth and weak with lies, or something that's not true for you. And the same thing with the sway test, you're going to sway forward with something that's true for you, and you're going to sway away from something that's not true for you. And a lot of times people are like, there's no way that this is real and this actually works, until they try it, and then they are like, oh my gosh, it works. So first thing that you need to make sure that you do is you're hydrated. If you're dehydrated, sometimes it's not very effective. And that doesn't mean you have to just go chug a bunch of water, but simply just going and taking a drink of water can be all you need to be able to help you get your body in a place to be able to do this correctly. So let's talk into more about the different methods. There's two different methods I'm going to show you. Method number one, and it's the easiest one, it's the one I always teach everyone. Most everyone can get it super fast and easy. It's the sway test. So it's essentially the same analogy with the plant. So all you're going to do is you're going to turn sideways, or I'm going to turn sideways. You don't necessarily have to be sideways, but I'm going to turn sideways so you can see my body. You're going to relax your arms. You're going to take a big inhale, big exhale, and you're going to say something like, you could use a word like unconditional love. And I sway forward because I allow myself to feel that. Now, if you are not used to this, it might take a second for you to move, or you might move very slightly. So I notice that if people have programs and belief systems around a lack of trust in self, sometimes this can be a little bit slower at first, or their body doesn't move as big. But if someone has beliefs that they trust themselves, it tends to work a little bit faster. That is not all the time, but that is a pattern I have seen. So sometimes you have to sit there for a moment and just allow your body to then move. So you can say unconditional love and just feel what it feels like to feel loved unconditionally. And your body might sway forward because it's like, oh, that feels good. And then you're going to say something like hatred. Oh, that did not feel good. I could feel it in my pit of my stomach when I said that, and my body moved away. Now, that's one way you can test it. But the way I want you to test it, that's probably going to be even better, is you simply state a statement that's true to you. For example, you would say, like I would say, my hands are relaxed to my side of my body. I take a deep breath in, deep breath out. And then I'm going to say, my name is Janessa. And my body moves forward. Now I'm going to say something like, my name is Scarlett. My body moves back, because that's not true for me. Now, sometimes I've noticed, I've had in the past clients who have tried to use their name and they don't move. And sometimes that can happen because they don't have a lot of self-love for themselves. And so they don't like themselves, and there's like this resistance that needs to be worked around with that. So that is something to be aware of. If you're using your name and just saying something like that and it's not working, pick something that you resonate with, something that is true for you, or something that brings you joy or happiness, something that you know that you would feel good with, and you can say that instead. So that is the sway test. That's the easiest one. That's the one I recommend you learn first. Now, if you want to learn one that's maybe a little bit more easy to do, and convenient to do it anywhere because you don't need to stand up and do it, you can do the finger test, which is where you take your 2 fingers and your thumb, you make a little loop, and then you're going to take your 2 fingers here and you're going to try to push through, and it's going to be strong and hold with truth, and it's going to break through with something that's not true. So this one's a little bit harder and it can take a little bit more time to get, but it is something that you can try. So for example, I'm going to say, my name is Janessa. It holds strong. My name is Steve. Goes right through. And some of you guys are like, oh, you're just doing that, but you have to try it because I'm literally not trying. It's just, I've practiced this so much, my body and my spirit understand it. It gives me immediate feedback. So I might say something again like, my name is Mary. My name is Janessa, right? I'm holding strong. So that is when you know you have it down. And this one will take a little bit more time. You might have to practice it a little bit more. Now there's another method where people will actually hold their arm like this one. I've never been a huge fan for me to use this one, but it works for some people. So you'd hold your hand at 90 degrees and you'd push down and you're gonna resist with the opposite hand. So I'd say my name is Janessa, strong. My name is, let's say my name is Bob, not as strong, but it's like you have to pay attention to the strength. So my name is Janessa, strong. My name is Bob, not as strong. And you can kind of see I move a little bit. And the same thing, like if you wanted someone to help you muscle test, you could do a partner one where you hold your arm out and someone pushes on it and you have to resist them with different questions. I don't recommend doing that one and learning and depending on that one because that means you're going to need someone. And we want you to do something that you don't need other people for so you can be independent when you're doing your healing. So now let's talk about when you'd use muscle testing. Muscle testing is a great tool when you're like, something's there and I don't quite know what it is, and I don't quite know how to get to it or what it is. So it's just a way for you to ask questions to get more understanding. What it is not is a fortune teller. You're not going to use this to be like, is this going to happen to me in the future, right? That is the incorrect way of using this. This is something that you use for yourself. This is something you use to ask questions about yourself. And you use it for your healing, not to tell the future, not to do anything like that, but it's more or less for you, your healing, to tap into your subconscious. That's how you're going to use it. If you start veering outside of that, it can become not as accurate or it just gets iffy, right? So you always use this connecting back to yourself. So when you use this, is like maybe you want to make sure that you process something fully. So let's say I process the feeling of anger through the script. Now I can muscle test and ask, am I clear of this feeling of anger? Yes, right? I mean, you might say, am I clear of this feeling of anger? And it might go through and you might be no, right? So if it's a no, you can ask deeper questions like, is there resistance towards letting this go? And you might get a yes or no, and you'd ask, is there resistance? There might be a yes, and if there's a yes, you can ask, do I need to know what this resistance is? No. Okay, do I have permission to clear this resistance? Yes. And then you could take resistance through the script, and that's it. You don't have to make it complicated. It can be that simple. Sometimes you can ask deeper questions like, is this program or belief generational? Generational just means like it's something that your family or your parents or your grandparents have believed on a subconscious level. It's changed their DNA, so they've passed it down to their generation and they pass it down to you, right? So you can ask questions like, is it generational? Or sometimes you can ask questions like, do I need to know what age this program or this belief or this feeling first came into my life? And you might get a yes. If you get a yes, you can ask more questions. If you get a no, then you would not ask any more questions with that and you'd move on to something else. So it's just there for greater knowledge, greater awareness. We can go into more details of what would consist of to be able to use muscle testing in our live calls so you guys can ask the questions you need to ask and we will answer them. But this is just another tool to use to be able to help you to dig a little deeper and to learn a little bit more about what needs healing. So if you have questions, let me know, but I'm excited for all you guys to start trying it.